Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to be covering improving learning outcomes for students of all abilities with Microsoft tools. For our agenda, we'll start by covering Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, in a hybrid learning environment. Then we'll be covering tools to help with reading, writing, and math, and we have some fun demos and stories to share with you. And then we'll be sharing some resources for how you can learn more. For goals, we'll first learn how the Universal Design Framework, or UDL, can make your content accessible in a hybrid learning environment. We'll also be learning about Microsoft tools to help with reading, writing, and math. And then we will be sharing some free resources to learn more. My name's Mariah Moon, and I'm an Accessibility Program Manager at Microsoft. I've spent the last few years working on Narrator, which is the built-in screen reader in Windows, to help make sure that people who are blind can use their computer. I am a white woman with long brown hair, and I'm wearing a black Microsoft shirt with a big green Microsoft accessibility dinosaur on it. And next is Rachel.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Berger. I am a white female with dark brown hair, which I'm wearing in a ponytail today. I'm wearing a black top with a floral patterned scarf today that has some really lovely colors for spring, magenta and gray. And a little bit about me. I am a learning disability assistive tech specialist at Microsoft Education. Another hat I wear is the director of a Minneapolis-based nonprofit that advocates on behalf of students with learning disabilities. We work in policy and educational advocacy. I'm also the mother of 3 sons, and between the 3 of them, we have learning differently represented quite well in our family. And I, as well, am an individual who has a neurodiverse condition. Lauren, over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Pitman. I am a white woman. I have long, dark, curly hair, and today I am wearing an orange sweater in recognition of spring. To give a little bit about me, I am a K-5 emotional behavior disorders teacher. So my classroom looks at bridging the gap between emotional disabilities as well as learning disabilities. I'm also a Microsoft Innovative Educator expert, and I have a Microsoft certified classroom.
We first wanted to take a minute and acknowledge that COVID-19 has been disrupting every aspect of people's lives, including work and school. This has been disproportionately impacting people with disabilities, and these types of inequities have been showing up in the news. Digital accessibility was important before COVID, but now it's imperative. People are relying on technology to provide them with reasonable accommodations, and we're going to be sharing a lot of examples with you today about this. Lauren, do you want to talk about your own journey with hybrid learning?
Absolutely. So we found out on a Thursday night that we were going to be going digital that following Monday. So we had exactly 1 day to prepare to be able to take everything we were doing face-to-face digital and also be able to provide all the accommodations that students required via their IEPs. So we essentially started at a 2-week, it went to 4 weeks, and it went to the rest of the school year. So it was definitely a journey to be able to bridge that gap from going face-to-face to digital overnight.
Universal Design for Learning is a way for teachers to help their students overcome obstacles. At its core, it's about providing multiple means of engagement, representation of content, and expression of what's being learned. We're going to be providing a lot of examples today about how to use UDL to improve engagement for reading, writing, and math. Lauren, would you like to share how you use UDL in the classroom?
Absolutely. So we're in a point now where we have students who are in different environments. Some are digital and some are face-to-face. And being able to use the UDL, or Universal Design for Learning, ensures that students in both environments are going to be able to access the content. It's also going to ensure that you as the teacher are able to ensure engagement, representation, action, and expression among both environments.
Thank you. So I'm using a visual image that is familiar to a lot of individuals in education. And this visual image is one where we are looking at 3 different images of students who are trying to view a baseball game. And so in the first image, we see that this is in particular a image that is really important to me and significant in my life. The main reason for that is because most of my educational years were spent like the first image, where you see the students all on the same block trying to see over the fence to participate and engage in a baseball game. My educational years were spent not quite connecting and engaging within my learning environment. And that is equality. This first image, you see all of the kids with the same block, but they're not all the same size, so they can't equally access the game. And the second image, these individuals are given different supports to make it possible for them to engage and have access, and so they're being treated equitably. While the third image, you see that all three individuals can equally see and engage in the baseball game without supports or accommodations, because that systemic barrier was removed. And today we're going to share a variety of learning tools that, from a universally designed perspective, can help your students to engage in their learning community. And what this also helps is that they can personalize that learning experience in the way that works best for them and help grow and gain in their independence, which is something that's near and dear to all of our hearts, so that children have the ability to achieve their full educational potential. And continuing to lay the backdrop as to what drove the creation of the tools we're about to share with you today, Scholastic put out a survey in 2014, and 14,000 educators responded to that survey. We learned that classrooms today are vastly different from, say, when you or I were in the classroom. 3/4 of all educators responded, stating that they work in gen ed classrooms where reading levels span 4 or more grade levels. And 3/4 of educators responded that they have special education students within their classrooms. That could be a student on an IEP, a 504, or one that requires some unique level of modification or accommodation in order to access their curriculum. And half of all educators responded, stating that they have students who are non-native speakers in their classroom. So you can see where up to 50% of instructional time can be lost managing those needs, including assistive technology. Yet at the same level, assistive technology is something that we create and design to remove barriers and level the playing field. So when it comes to assistive technology, about 1 billion people globally require some level of assistive technology. And really, when it comes to assistive technology, it benefits everyone, including people with permanent disabilities, like some of the ones listed in our slide, but also individuals who have temporary impairments, like a broken arm, or even situational requirements, like working hands-free. Disabilities come in many different forms, both visible and invisible. And today we're going to talk about some of the differences that are in the learning or cognitive area. They're invisible by and large, but it doesn't make them any less pervasive. And I just wanted to make a point about the newish CEO, Satya Nadella. He's really a key part of Microsoft's mission, which is to empower every single person on the planet to achieve more. And what's really important about this, in particular to me, is that they say every single person on the planet. They didn't say we're going to empower 75% of the population. And Microsoft certainly didn't say we're going to empower those that are neurotypical. Truly every single person. And so what's really exciting as an individual who has a neurodiverse condition is it's a great time to have that condition, because we have so many different supports being built in and across platforms that enable accessibility every single day. And so now that we've laid a backdrop for you on the tools that we're about to demonstrate, we're going to go ahead and get into demonstrations and sharing examples. And we're going to start out with increasing reading accessibility. So the goal with the reading tools that we're going to share with you today is to increase reading engagement. The challenge is accessing grade level content in multiple settings, whether it's due to dyslexia, due to non-native speaking, executive function, or a multitude of situations. And the solutions we have are to make text accessible with tools like Immersive Reader or Office Lens. Lauren, would you like to add more to that?
Yes, when we're looking at reading engagement in terms of the UDL guidelines, what we're really looking to do is to ensure that students can consume the text that's personalized to them. It supports decoding if students have a disability which impacts their ability to read fluently. And then we're also providing different alternative ways to access that visual information.
So let's take a look at how Immersive Reader technology works in Edge browser. And we're going to be utilizing the Edge browser Chromium edition here. So we've clicked on the Immersive Reader feature, which is up in the browser bar, and you can see right now we're going to use the Read Aloud feature and simply have our text read aloud. We also have the option to change our voice speed and our voice selection. Now we're going to go ahead and set our text preferences and our text spacing. Again, all of these tools enable us to personalize that consumption. So change our background color. And we can even utilize reading preferences with Immersive Reader as well, such as line focus mode. We also have a host of grammar tools available. So if we wanted to highlight our parts of speech or break words into syllables, all the while the text is highlighting aloud, we have access to doing that. Immersive Reader is available in Edge browser, the Chromium edition. It's also available in OneNote and in Word Online. And I'm going to show you an additional place where students and individuals have access to Immersive Reader. This is something that's really important when it comes to individuals who are struggling with needing that access or speech to text, and they're out in their day-to-day lives. So you can utilize Immersive Reader by downloading the free Microsoft Lens app in the App Store. And this works on an iPhone, it works on an Android and an iPad. So let's take a look at how we can access Immersive Reader with Microsoft Lens. So what you see here is Microsoft Lens allows the user to snap a photograph of text they'd like to have read aloud. They go directly to Immersive Reader. You can see that Immersive Reader is providing that text-to-speech, as well as we have the same features that we had just looked at in Edge browser, with the ability to change our text, our background, our grammar options, and even utilize things like Picture Dictionary or Translator. So this tool, again, provides that quick, easy accessibility pathway when you're out doing your daily activities with life and you have your iPhone, Android, or an iPad. And I'd like to show a video, and it is one where you'll see students speaking and sharing their personal experiences utilizing Immersive Reader. And one of our guests today is in that video, and she's going to speak up afterwards.
The true purpose of education is to create possibility.
It was a little hard for me. People laugh whenever I read sometimes.
Well, they knew how to read, and I didn't.
I will never be good at reading. I will probably be held back again.
It highlights the words to know where I am.
When it's reading, I see spaces between the words, and it's easy to focus on.
The first time I actually could read that book, I was proud of myself.
I was very proud of myself. Good job, Joey.
When technology and education come together, possibility becomes reality.
I want to read every book in here.
So the wonderful thing about the reading tools that we just showed you is that Claire, who is at the end of that video, really did read every book that there was. She actually just won a contest at her school for being one of the top readers in her grade level. So it really does have a great impact on students.
Great. Now we're going to be talking about increasing writing accessibility. Our goal is to support action and expression through writing. One of the biggest challenges with this is when students have severe spelling disabilities. Some of the solutions we're going to be covering are dictation, editor, and word prediction. Lauren, would you like to talk about the UDL guidelines for writing?
Absolutely. So when we're talking about expression through writing, allowing students to have multiple outlets to share their understanding of content and their own personal thoughts is really important. It might be simply typing, it could be dictating, but all of those ensure that students are able to express their learning in a way that's accessible for them.
So as is often the case, either my children or the students that I work with in advocacy, I share their examples. So this one is coming from my son a couple of years ago when he was in middle school and asked to do a writing assignment for language arts. And the example on the left, he clearly was able to follow the directions, which was to write a one-page story. However, as you'll notice, the manual task of writing is very difficult for him. And it is not easy for him because he struggles with the spelling, the punctuation, and as he struggles with that, he's also struggling due to his dysgraphia and dyslexia with just getting the content out of his head onto paper. And when all of these things kind of come together for him, it's an arduous task that as more time goes on, it doesn't result in a better outcome, as you'll see. And so what we want to do here is provide him a workaround or an alternative method to be able to demonstrate his ability to understand what the assignment was and to connect with his peers in the same way and engage in that learning environment. And so I gave him the tools that I use on a daily basis built into Word. And on the right, the example is what he was able to produce on his own independently within 12 minutes, both including dictating and then editing. And so obviously the example on the right is legible for all of us, but it also provides a lot of richness of content. And that was something that he wasn't able to demonstrate while he was doing the manual task on the left. That took him 50 minutes of his class time, 50. So here we removed that barrier and enabled him to really participate and connect and demonstrate his subject matter knowledge and his ability to understand what his educator was asking. And now we're going to go ahead and show you how it was possible for my son to effectively create content utilizing the tools that are built in.
So let's take a look at the tools that were utilized to help my son more effectively be able to create content for his language arts class. So here you'll find we are under our Home tab, and we're going to move all the way over to the right to this little dictation tool or icon. So dictation is built in. I'm in Microsoft Word Desktop Edition. You can also access these tools on the free online version of Microsoft Word. So here we're at our dictation icon, and right underneath there's a tiny little arrow. What we want to do is ensure that we're choosing the voice that we'd like to use in our dictation. And then from there, let's go ahead and just put our cursor where we need it to be. And we'll go ahead and engage our dictation tool. I'm a user of dictation software, period. Dictation helps me to quickly and effectively do what I call a brain download. Sorry, I meant brain download. Period. New line. I used to call myself a dictation donor. Period. More commonly because I felt as if the dictation software I was using didn't effectively work to remove the roadblocks I was experiencing. Period. All right, so now you get a really good idea how dictation works quickly and effectively to help us create content. And you'll notice that editor is working all along and underlines any confusing words, which I did mix up how I was saying the word brain. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and utilize the editor. And again, this is another tool that enabled my son to more quickly and effectively be able to create content as an independent individual without having me watch over his shoulder or having a teacher watch over his shoulder. So our editor tool is right over here on the right. And when we click on that, what happens is it gives us a list of things that were flagged in our document, corrections in spelling and grammar, refinements under clarity, conciseness, formality, vocabulary, etc. So let's go ahead and take a look at our spelling. And here you'll notice that we've misspelled the word principal. And that's great that we have a drop-down list of options, but what's really amazing is if you're someone who's previously struggled with spelling, a drop-down list doesn't necessarily help you disambiguate between which version of the word do you actually mean. And so here we've got context built in, and we can more easily be able to select the word. Also, if we are at this point fatiguing, we can go ahead and use the read aloud feature.
Principal, similar to main, leader, superintendent.
All right, so there we can just grab the word that we want. And what happens is editor will go ahead and walk us through the entire document, helping us again to more independently create that content. We can go ahead and use the arrows to toggle back and forth between would we like to work on spelling, would we like to work on grammar, or other refinements with our document. All right, so that in a nutshell is our dictation feature and our editor feature. Again, both of those are under our home tab, and all the way over to the right, we have dictation, we have editor.
And I'd like to show you another workaround for writing when it comes to students who have challenges with the manual task of writing. So I learned this last year when we first started distance learning. Again, this is utilizing Microsoft Lens, which is free in the App Store for iPhone, Android, and iPad. So my youngest son was coming home with packets from school, and as a child who struggles deeply with dysgraphia, in addition to his older brother, these packets can be a really difficult task. And what happens here is that he goes from being able to demonstrate effectively his subject matter knowledge, because the manual task is so difficult, he is likely to only give a 2 to 3 word answer. And the support or accommodation would be mom or educator as a scribe, which is very stigmatizing and frustrates him. So here we wanted to create a workaround, and I utilized Office Lens for that workaround. You'll see in the video how easy it is to be able to enable the accessibility pathway and increase independence by utilizing this tool. So here we're snapping a photograph of that worksheet packet. And we're going to the upper right hand corner and looking for the T for text box. Now we're utilizing the dictation feature built in on our iPhone or iPad or Android, and we're dictating our answer. Then we can move that text box to the appropriate place on the worksheet, which just became a photograph. And now watch what happens when we start to get a little bit more content and our text box gets larger. Now, if you'll use your pinch or finger motion, you can shrink or enlarge in the text box to make sure it fits in the appropriate spot. And what I especially love about this workaround is we can now directly send the assignment through Outlook to the educator. Previously, when I have students that struggle, oftentimes they're embarrassed to turn in the work because it really isn't as representative. In this case, my son was very proud of the work he'd done because he was able to verbally express the answers. And so we don't have to miss that missing assignment between home and school.
And for the last example in writing, I'm going to be talking about word prediction, which is a setting in Windows settings. And basically what it allows you to do is bring up text suggestions as you type near the cursor. And so I have a little video to play. And basically, as I'm typing, I'm getting suggestions as I type. This is great for people with dyslexia or just people who are having trouble figuring out what word they want to type next. And you can see the suggestions show up, and then I can use my pointer or my finger to tap on those suggestions. Here, I'm just showing how to get to those settings. So I can go into the keyboard settings, and there is a toggle that you can turn on that basically allows you to get those text suggestions. And next up is math accessibility.
Thank you, Mariah. Now we're going to look at some tools for increasing math accessibility. So one of the challenges for supporting math engagement is that math isn't just about numbers. It's also about executive functioning. It's about being able to do multiple operations in one problem, being able to pick information out of a word problem, and then being able to solve problems that have multi-steps. And so one of the things that we're going to look at are some math support tools found within OneNote. And again, we're supporting those UDL guidelines of expression by allowing students to be able to access math content in different ways. And the first thing that we're going to look at here is a tool in OneNote where you can select an equation and use the math function feature found within OneNote. Within this, you're going to be able to solve problems, but also, again, access that immersive reader. One of the things about solving a multi-step equation like that is being able to hear the content about how to solve. So you can go in, you can use the features of the immersive reader. It will actually break the equations down step by step, and the students are able to listen to the solution multiple times in order to access how to solve that equation. Again, we're seeing that same equation. We're going to go back to that math tool. And now what we're going to do is we're going to generate what's called a practice quiz. One of the great things about being able to do this in OneNote is that if you're on, let's say, a live lesson with students and they need some additional practice with content, you're able to very quickly create a quiz. The students can access the immersive reader on how to solve those problems. And then you're able to track their learning right there in OneNote by creating a set of questions that follow the lesson that you're providing. So what we're going to see now is one of my favorite features. So let's go ahead and play the video. So this is called Inking Replay. And what you can do is you can actually use the pen, your finger, or your mouse to actually write onto a OneNote page. After that, students can go in and replay exactly what you wrote and how you wrote it. This has been a really great tool to support my students when I'm not there, to be able to show them how to solve a problem and be able to hear my voice. You can add audio to Inking Replay so that students and also adults who support them during this digital learning time are able to see how to solve problems step by step.
And lastly, we're going to be going through some resources, and Rachel's going to be talking about some of these interactive guides.
So we have a variety of interactive guides that are self-paced, and you can take from the comfort of your own home to learn these tools and more. They're broken out into reading, writing, math, and communication. I'd highly encourage you to check them out and increase your knowledge.
And I've put together some resources related to accessibility at Microsoft and how to improve accessibility during remote learning. And so these are some great resources to use, especially while we're in kind of a hybrid learning environment. We just wanted to take a minute and acknowledge that during this talk, we spoke about some examples, some assistive technology, but the accessibility community is large. There are people with vision, hearing, mobility, cognitive, and speech disabilities, and we didn't have time to cover all of these examples. We do want to note that Microsoft has lots of different assistive technologies. There's assistive technology built into Office apps that we talked about, as well as built into Windows. And we covered some of this. We had a lot of resources before on the other slides, so please go and learn more. Next is Rachel to wrap.
Thanks, Mariah. One of the things that's top of mind for me is that accessibility is not something that's a members-only club for those who can afford to pay for specific technologies or apps. It's evident that Microsoft is standing behind its mission to help every single person on the planet achieve more by building free and accessible tools into products and across platforms so that everybody truly has the ability to access and improve. And I'm really thankful for that. As a neurodiverse individual, it's a great time to have this condition. And now, Lauren, what would you like to say to wrap things up today?
I would like to say a huge thank you to Microsoft and their empowerment of educators during this digital time. So one of the things that we've had to deal with is not having our students with us face to face. And with these tools, we know that while our students are working at home, we're going to be able to provide them a rich and equitable access to education, even when they're not with us face to face. And so the empowerment is not only for students, but it's us as educators well. And I'm really grateful for that.
Thank you, Rachel and Lauren. Just as one more last note, one of the great ways that we improve our products is through feedback. And so if you do use some of these assistive technologies in your classroom or for yourself, please send us feedback so that we can improve the products that we are building. We love hearing from customers, and this is one way to help us prioritize what are the next things to help us to build next. And so one of the ways to provide feedback is with the feedback app that's built into Windows, and we are able to read the feedback that comes right through there. Thank you so much for joining this talk, and we hope you have a great Ability Summit.